Begin by safely jacking up and supporting your car. With the car safely off the ground, you will need to remove the engine tray. There are 6 8mm bolts that hold the tray on. The rear 2 also help hold the transmission tray. If you are going to leave the transmission tray on, remove the rear 2 bolts first, lower the engine tray, reattach the transmission tray bolts, then remove the remaining 4 bolts on the engine tray. On the rear of the oil pan, you will find the 13mm drain plug, red arrow. Use a wrench and remove it. Remember, the oil is going to be hot coming out of the motor, so make sure you don't burn yourself and try not to drop the drain plug in the container you are using to catch the oil. Always dispose used motor oil according to the regulations where you live. Most oil change shops in your neighborhood parts store will take your old oil and filter to be recycled properly. Once the oil has emptied, reinstall the drain plug with a new crush washer, yellow arrow. I always like to make sure I reinstall the drain plug before I start working on the top of the engine, just so I don't forget it later. Reinstall the engine tray. Move to the engine compartment where you will find the oil filter housing, red arrow, as well as the oil filler cap, yellow arrow. You can easily perform this job without removing the engine front cover or the air ducts, but I removed them so you can have a better view of the oil filter housing, red arrow, and the oil filler cap, green arrow. If you are worried about how to tighten the oil filter housing, you can use a little whiteout or other marking source to mark the housing and filter, yellow arrow. Then just tighten it up until they line up again. Place your oil filter socket, red arrow, over the filter cover and remove it. With the filter loose, you can pull it straight up and out of the housing. Be careful as it will be covered in oil and has a tendency to drip. Slide the old filter, yellow arrow, off and inspect it for any metal. Slide your new filter on. There are 4 separate rubber O-rings or gaskets on the filter holder, red arrows. Thankfully, they are all different sizes and will only fit in one spot. Use a little of your new clean oil to help get the new O-rings in place. Here's a trick when it comes to filling. Pour your new oil into the engine. The Mercedes oil filter opening is not that large, so it's easier just to use the filter housing as a place to pour your oil in. It's large enough to hold the whole quart container hands-free. Put 8.5 quarts in and reinstall the oil filter housing, install the filter assembly, and tighten it back up. Start the motor, let it warm up while you're checking for leaks, and then check oil level and add as needed. Thanks for watching. Click here to view the original article along with hundreds of other DIY content for your car.